Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I was just telling the people here that you're still switching on the generator.
Yeah, no, man. Listen, I've been running around like a headless chicken the past 10 minutes trying to figure
Yeah,
out
I
this
was
load
also
shedding thing, but
praying
we're
that.
here now.
Yeah, how are you? How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain besides being nervous because I've never gone live before, but I'm good. I cannot complain. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How was your day?
My day was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay. You
Ooh.
have days where it's like great and then just like days that are okay, not bad, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yours?
It was okay. It was okay. So yeah, thank you for asking. Did you go to work today?
Okay. No. So I'm currently training at the moment. I'm not working.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm actually busy with theory. So I'm not flying at the moment. I'm busy like trying to get my exams out the way.
Mm-hmm.
So yes and no, I did work today, but not the kind of work you think I did. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to know more about your career, right? So well, we'll start with aviation because I don't
Mhm.
know what aviation is, so I need you to tell me what aviation is.
So, aviation is basically it's the name for the industry.
Mhm.
Anything regarding planes, whether you're an aircraft mechanic, a pilot, a navigator, or a flight attendant, you are in the industry where we transport via aircraft, basically.
Okay.
So that is what aviation is, whether it's your normal airlines or helicopters, anything regarding that, that's basically what aviation is. It's the name for the industry.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, I get it now. So why be a pilot? Why did you choose to?
Um, why did I choose to become a pilot?
Yes.
So it's not the normal answer that you would hear a lot of pilots say, which is, oh, the first time I saw a plane, I fell in love.
I
Don't get me wrong, I've always loved flying.
yes.
But I had the opportunity of flying to New York with a friend. She gifted me, like, for my 16th birthday, she was like, we're going to take you to New York.
Wow, so you
Anyway,
went to New York for your
so
birthday. Wow.
yeah, no,
Wow.
I was lucky enough to have a friend who listen, those gifts were
Okay.
amazing. Anyway,
Yes.
so luckily for me,
Mm-hmm.
her mom was actually part of the flight crew, and because of this, I got to meet the pilots. And we also like traveled with the rest of the crew and stayed at the same hotel as the rest of the crew.
Yes.
So number one, I met the pilot, and this was my first time meeting or seeing a pilot who was black. All my life, I saw Caucasian pilots who were males. And in that moment, when I saw a black pilot, like it's like a seed was planted into my brain that, oh, wait, I can also become a pilot. I never thought of that because I never saw that representation growing up, right?
Yes.
And that was the first time the seed was planted. And then what solidified me wanting to become a pilot is while we were traveling from the airport to where the flight crew would be staying,
Yes.
we dropped off the pilots first. And when I tell you, the hotel these pilots were staying at was next level, man. And I was like, does the company pay for the pilots to stay here? And they're like, yeah, it's all paid for. I'm like, I'm sorry, you get paid to travel and you live in luxury while someone else is
Mm.
paying. Give me a piece of that. I want some of that type of vibe. So that's literally what, solidified that for me. I was like, number one, I don't have to, stay in the cubicle all day. The sky is basically my office, and I get paid to travel while representing and, empowering Black people and females in the industry. So that's why I became a pilot.
So like, do you only okay, you said you're still studying, you're still training, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes,
are you only
that's
going to
correct.
fly around South Africa or you're gonna go out?
So while you are training, you only
Mm.
fly within the country. But once you do qualify, you can fly internationally. You can choose to stay local. It's really up to you. But there really is no boundary to where you can and cannot fly, really. So you can go international. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So how was your first time?
My first time.
Yes.
Um, my first flight was actually quite interesting. I so you can't see, but I'm not the tallest person out there. I'm really not. Um, so I remember my first flight, my
Mm-hmm.
instructor gave me a cushion. She was like, okay, you're gonna need this just to like elevate you a bit.
Mm.
And anyway, we started the aircraft and we taxied to the runway. And now we're looking at the runway. And I turned to my instructor and I'm like to her, I can't see the runway. And she's like, but you're sitting on a cushion. And I was like, I still can't see the runway. And she had to get off of her cushion and I had to
Mm-hmm.
sit on two cushions in order to see the runway. And even then it still wasn't enough. I had to like put my head up a bit.
Couldn't you like adjust the seat?
Listen, no. I can't. The best you can do is move the seat forward, but you can't lift it.
Or maybe you did
um
take it up, but you still couldn't see it.
No. So I sat on the two cushions, and
Mm,
I must say, so the beginning of my first flight was a bit shaky.
mm.
But you know what? Once I got the hang of it and we were in the air, it was just like taking. I was just like, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I'm actually like pursuing my as a pilot. So for the most part, it was really exciting. A little new, but in a good way, in a very good way. So yeah, that was my first flight.
But then what happens if you lose control?
If Hmm, that is a very good question. So, number one, it really depends on the aircraft you're flying. You get some aircrafts that have autopilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have autopilot, then even if you lose control or you don't have control,
Mm-hmm.
the aircraft still is able to stabilize itself and fly whatever you put in, whatever you set for it to fly, right? And even with the smaller aircrafts, it's just not as reliable. Like we have something where you can trim the aircraft so that it like, I guess, flies the way you want it to fly. But that one is not as reliable in the smaller aircrafts that we train for. So in a nutshell, don't lose control.
You never know.
That
It's like
just feels
driving a
like a
car. You never
recipe
know.
for
You never
disaster.
know. You never. But then,
It's not a
which
good
one did you
idea.
go for? Which one did you go for?
What do you Okay, so when you start off flying, you usually start on aircraft such as the Piper or the Cessna, which are the small ones. You know those small ones that sound like flies when you
Mm.
like, they're quite tiny and they just
I.
like fly overhead and they make quite a noise.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably student pilots. That's what we start off with training in. But then eventually, the more you train, the more experience you get. You
Mm-hmm.
start to get into more advanced aircrafts that do have autopilot, that can do more advanced stuff that, the smaller aircrafts can't do. So, in a nutshell, I can't choose. You start off with, let's say, a manual aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
To better understand what I'm trying to say, and then you can move on to auto. Once you know how to manually fly an aircraft, then you can move on to an aircraft where it can essentially fly itself. Yeah.
So, so like, is there a big difference between flying and driving?
Oh, there's a big difference between flying and driving.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, the biggest difference. You know how you accelerate and you build on the floor when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to a car?
Yeah.
Aircraft, we call this rudder pedals.
Mm-hmm.
We actually use that to turn the aircraft left and right. So it's when you're on the ground, we don't actually use the controls that you see here to turn. We
Mm-hmm.
use our feet to turn the aircraft. So I would say that's the biggest difference. But overall, I would say the similarities between flying and driving is the more you practice, the more comfortable you feel, the more, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
Eventually, it gets to a point where, you don't have to think about driving. You don't have to think about changing gears. It comes naturally. It ends up becoming second nature. So it's the same with flying. The more you practice, the better you get at it, the more it becomes second nature. So, yeah.
So, okay, what is it that one should do to study what